Hi, thanks for joining me today to talk about configuring hardware plans and virtual data centers. My name's Tim Hudson, and we'll start with a brief PowerPoint run-through to talk about some key concepts, and then we'll jump into a demonstration of creating hardware plans and leveraging org VDCs for our tenants replication through Veeam Cloud Connect's disaster recovery as a service. Let's start with some of those key components. A hardware plan and an organization virtual data center are sets of compute, storage, and networking resources that we allocate to a tenant. We leverage these resources to store replicated virtual machines. These tenants use an account either created in Veeam Cloud Connect or in VMware's Cloud Director product to access their cloud repositories and cloud hosts, which is what we're specifically talking about in this video. Traditional Veeam Cloud Connect replication might look like this. Tenants on the left have their own Veeam backup and replication servers, potentially their own storage, networking, and compute needs in terms of an allocation on the service provider side on the right. The service providers can leverage VMware's vCenter or Hyper-V to create these hardware plans, which is, again, a way to store and allocate resources for these tenants. When we're using VMware's Cloud Director product, we'll also add in some terms, organization and organization virtual data center, which we've already mentioned. The organization is really the tenant or tenant account. We are simply going to leverage VMware's Cloud Director for that need. An organization virtual data center is created per organization, which gives the individual storage, compute, and networking requirements or allocation to our tenants. Again, for those maybe not familiar with VMware's Cloud Director product, these organization virtual data centers help provide the environment that our systems will be stored in and also ran. And organization virtual data center networks are simply VLANs or VXLANs that we'll leverage for our tenant networking requirements. Let's go look at a demo of our Cloud Connect replication capabilities. Here we're looking at a Veeam Backup and Replication install with our Cloud Connect license running. You can see we've created some tenants. I've also already added in my virtual center and VMware Cloud Director product into the backup infrastructure section of our managed servers. Let's start by creating a hardware plan. I'll navigate to the replica resources area here on the left and select Add Plan. We'll give this a suitable name, and we'll choose where that hardware plan will be allocated. Normally, we see this allocated at the cluster level. Let's assign some CPU and memory resources, and subsequently storage and networking. These compute resources will be created in Virtual Center as a resource pool, which we'll look at momentarily. Our storage allocation is simply going to consume a data store. And I'll choose an appropriate size of quota for this tenant. We'll also choose the number of networks that can be leveraged by our tenant or customer with a setting specific to those networks with internet access or those without. If you haven't pre-created your VLANs, leverage the hyperlink here in order to specify VLANs that have internet access or internal VLANs that will not be able to egress to the internet. Again, once that's done, we've selected our specific number of networks to use for the tenants that we'll allocate this hardware plan to, and then we'll finish up the wizard. Now let's allocate that hardware plan to a tenant and then look at Virtual Center and see what's been done. I'll edit an existing tenant and assign the hardware plan we just created. And then let's go look at vCenter as this process is working. Here at this Cloud Connect replication resource pool, we'll see a new resource pool be created. The new resource pool is named the hardware plan name and the tenant name. And additionally, you can notice we've created some distributed port groups on our particular VDS that's part of the cluster we've assigned. And this, these two networks equate to the two networks with internet access that we allocated to the hardware plan itself. Notice for this resource pool, the limit of 8 gigahertz and 24 gigs of RAM that we assigned to the hardware plan construct. In vCloud Director, it's a very similar process, a very similar set of concepts. Looking at this particular tenant in vCloud Director, let's edit it and add a pre-configured org virtual data center. Editing my tenant here will allow me to add in a new virtual data center that I created for this test effort. This particular organization virtual data center also appears in vCenter as a resource pool. Here, this resources pool's limits are set as unlimited, also an option in the Cloud Connect replication hardware plan configuration. Notice that the hardware plan and VMware's Cloud Director org VDCs are very similar in terms of their construction. So really an allocation of CPU, RAM, storage, and networking resources. The biggest difference is who is handling multi-tenancy. In terms of leveraging vCloud Director, we rely on them for their organization and organization virtual data center constructs for multi-tenancy. And without vCloud Director, Veeam, or more specifically, Backup and Replication, will build and manage the resource pools appropriately to separate tenant resources and assign appropriate networks to keep segmentation and multi-tenancy functioning correctly. Thanks for watching the video, and if you have any other questions or comments, please make sure to check out the technical documentation available on Veeam.com.